Over to you.
Thank you very much, Manye. I was traveling from KZN to Johannesburg, and I took a long road, which took me a few days. So it is not his fault. I got lost. And I had to phone him to say, how to get to Joburg. So I was helped by him, who directed me. So I finally arrived this morning. You seem to be suspicious I'm not telling the truth. Huh? Compatriots, greetings to you all. We haven't talked. I know you guys love having discussions. You know why? Because I was in prison. You are not allowed to come to prison. I'm now out of prison, so if I take a little bit more of your time, don't feel bad, because I've been longing to talk to you. So if I take a bit long, I know you guys, some of them have what we call deadlines, etc. And I've got no line who's dead, so far as I'm concerned. As it is now, common knowledge, on the 7th of July, 2021, I handed myself to the Escort Correctional Center to serve a term of 15 months imprisonment as ordered by the majority decision of 7 judges of the Constitutional Court, in which 2 other judges held a different view on that judgment. On the 7th October 2022, I served the last day of that sentence of 1 year, 3 months. That was 3 months in prison, doing my sentence. However, the remaining concern that makes me feel uncertain is about whether I am really free, given that there is still a pending court decision in a case brought by white right-wing organizations that I should be sent back to prison. Therefore, while I am relieved about the ending of my prison sentence, I still remain exposed to the injustice injustice visited upon me by the justice system of this country. When we fought to liberate this country from the unjust laws of apartheid, we did not know those who supported and defended apartheid would infiltrate the justice system to continue the agenda of their colonial ancestors against the leaders of the people. People have, in recent years, been blinded by the fact that we now have democracy and democratically elected black governments, from seeing that our elected governments are still expected to serve the commercial interests of colonial powers ahead of those of the people who elect them. I believe I'm one of those leaders who have been punished for serving my people ahead of the commercial interests of the colonial powers. As a freedom fighter, I am determined to live my remaining years of life without any fear of oppression from the very institutions that I dedicated my life to establish, so that everyone living in our country has a guaranteed freedom. It is important to remember that the whole society was mobilized against me, and for the first time in the country's history, some people came out in their numbers to march saying, Zuma must go. I'm sure you remember that. Even old people were on the streets saying, Zuma must go, Zuma must go. Books were written, misleading documentaries were made, and comrades were turned into enemies under the illusion of some new idea called state capture. Very funny something. My imprisonment came as part of a long campaign aimed at removing me as president and punishing me for having not been a darling of the commercial interests that seek to profit at the expense of our poor people. The Constitutional Court does not have such overriding powers to willy-nilly send people to jail. That, in my view, is a travesty of justice, and it must be exposed and be rectified by the justice system. I will continue to speak out against a system that seeks to suppress and undermine my rights and the rights of many who are targets of the wrong system. I know I'm correct in my resolve to fight such injustices and the abuse of power. If I should be imprisoned for these beliefs, so be it. I was imprisoned when I fought apartheid, and I did serve my term, and I continued thereafter to fight for my freedom. As I expressly indicated before my incarceration without a trial, I have been arrested by the apartheid regime. I said then, I don't fear prison. Indeed, I said it too to the apartheid regime then. I again said it to the Constitutional Court of our democracy. I would like to repeat that even if I am arrested wrongly by our democratic state, I don't fear prison. I will never fear any arrest, even if it's done by my democratic laws, twisted by those who have been given the powers to send people to jail. But I must say that it remains a shock that a democratic state arrests and imprison its own citizen without a trial. This is something to be frowned upon by all of us, peace-loving citizens, and mainly the patriots. But of course, being myself, this action made me to remember the old apartheid days where people were arrested and kept in prison without a trial. But apartheid had to cover this because they knew it was illegal and wrong. They had to cover it by coding it as detention without trial. That's how they called it. They called it a 90 days detention. So they had to find something to make it look like it is legal. Unlike today, you are just sent without trial, without even the charge or whatever, is it the charge number or whatever. I was again one of those who served a 90 days detention in Pretoria without a trial in 1963. The irony is that during my 90-day detention, I was arrested for fighting for my rights. In the democratic South Africa, I was imprisoned without a trial for defending my rights, which is enshrined in the Constitution. What a coincidence. The learned judges said that whilst it is a right enshrined in the Constitution for all citizens not to answer questions, but they said to me that rights does not apply to Jacob Zuma. So whilst all citizens enjoy this right, Jacob Zuma does not apply. Does this confirm a claim that in this country there are now Zuma laws? I wonder what this Zuma has done. Having reached the end of my unlawful incarceration of 1 year, 3 months by the Constitutional Court without a trial, I decided that the circumstances of my conviction and direct imprisonment should give us a chance to reflect. I therefore reflected on how our constitutional institutions established to protect us from the abuse of state power can willy-nilly, can and will become themselves institutions that will and can be used to victimize us for daring to challenge the abuse of state power in our system of government. My imprisonment started with Chief Justice Zondo setting out an unprecedented legal process against me, in terms of which I became his target of abuse. From the start of the State Capture Commission, it became clear to me that Chief Justice Zondo, as chair of the commission, was not interested in establishing the truth, but was himself involved in building up the narrative of the state capture. In other words, Chief Justice Zondo was not a neutral judge leading a fact-finding commission, but was running a process of writing a report that would establish the guilt of all those who had been accused of state capture because of their known association with me. In my view, Chief Justice Zondo failed the test of his oath of office, and that he is now sitting at the helm of judiciary should be a matter of great concern, not just to me, but to all other freedom-loving compatriots. The State Capture Commission was never about uncovering the truth about the commercial interests that have been influencing government policies and decisions ever since the establishment of our democracy in 1994. It had two interests it had no interest on how some former leaders and their families, spouses, have amassed billions in wealth from being given shares for free in big companies. It was not interested in understanding why and how so many leaders of the liberation movement became super wealthy overnight through the few wealthy families who control the economy of this country. Instead, the Commission was only interested in pursuing targeted individuals that had been pronounced guilty of state capture by the media. Certain leaders were declared saints in the media, and the State Capture Commission was not interested in anything that implicated them. Another of the agendas of the Commission, which has emerged from the final report, was to take away the ANC's ability to implement party policies in government by suggesting that our system of cadre development was unconstitutional. I find this strange that such would be said, because every party that wins any elections appoints its own members to key leadership positions in the state. The cabinet appointed by the president is normally from members of his own party. That is cadre development. It happens everywhere in the world. Any party that wins elections does not go to the opposition and take those guys who would not follow the policy of the party. But here, it is a big deal. It is clear to me that the so-called Zondo Commission was established as a platform to eliminate the progressive and transformative elements of our country by constitutional means. Instead, we see more and more of how our Constitution is being manipulated to advance colonial interests at the expense of the ambitions of the democracy and the need for an equal society. I indicated to Chief Justice Zondo that the commission, which had been unlawfully established, was itself being used by unelected leadership of the country to remove the true leaders of our liberation and entrench a new political elite that would conform and be controlled by colonial economic interests. I told Chief Justice Zondo that those who supported the Zondo Commission, irrespective of its unlawful establishment, did not care about the Constitution and would use an unlawful device as the Zondo Commission to advance their interests in hijacking our Constitution to represent their greedy interests. I traced for Justice Zondo where the plan to replace the progressive group of the liberation movement with a new political elite that would maintain the colonial and apartheid infrastructure of economic control as to where the ownership was coming from. I referred to two intelligence reports that made it clear that there is a carefully chosen special layer of South African leaders whose role is to ensure that the resources of our country and its global influence on the continent is reorganized to serve this global agenda in which the interests of our people do not matter. I knew that the Commission would be used as a division to channel the people's zeal for progressive change to mere condemnation of people like me and many others. In terms of the law, Section 6(1) of the Commissions Act of 1947 says that anyone charged with contempt of court shall be guilty of an offense and liable to conviction to a fine not exceeding £60 or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 6 months or both such fine and imprisonment. In terms of this law, the Constitutional Court failed to adhere to what the law of the country dictates. They gave a sentence far bigger than what is stipulated in the law, which in my case, I was convicted to 1 year, 3 months in prison. This conviction is unlawful, and therefore I contend that this does need some clarity with regards to some judges who err in their judgment. as a citizen of this country, I ask, what do we do when the judges of the apex court make mistakes in their judgment that unfairly disadvantages the accused person? Where do you go? The fact is that the highest court in the land violated the law. What is the remedy to this? This is a serious matter that must not be left unattended to. We need to ensure that judges are not reduced to politicians. What I said then is happening as we speak now. Our key institutions are now intended to serve this global agenda. As we speak, there are moves to privatize strategic state assets and surrender key functions of the state to international global interests. As a developmental state, we had the key objective of bringing electricity to every village and every home through ESCOM. ESCOM is now being surrendered to international commercial interests for them to profit from our people's need for electricity. In other words, those who are in charge of the country are taking the property of the country, doing business for themselves, perhaps with their friends, wherever they are. Irresponsible acting, if we are given by the votes of the majority to look after their interests in their country, and without consulting with them, you decide to sell and borrow. Those doing this use the state capture as an excuse to divert the public's attention from what is really happening in our country. Load shedding, In 2015, my government ended load shedding until I left office at the start of 2018. This load shedding was stopped for 3 years in the time of professionals such as Mr. Brian Molifa and Michelle Koko. I'm sure some of you remember I had made a statement there will never be load shedding in this country. At that time, we had stopped it and we said it will never be there. load shedding started immediately after certain agreements were concluded with independent power producers, and has never stopped since then. Why does the correct leadership fail to get a handle of the issues of Eskom? Why? It is public knowledge that a few of these power producers had invested millions into the campaign of one of the candidates at the 2017 Nasrec conference. During my tenure as president, we had intended to harness nuclear power to develop the energy mix. Civil society organizations were mobilized by those wanting to sell electricity to the public, which is generated by the free sun of Africa. We now live in a country where it is normal to have the power switched off 2 or 3 times a day. SAA is gone. Eskom is in the shambles, and we accept this incompetency as a country. What will now follow is our ports, rail, and water. Our coal-powered power stations are being neglected and being set up for collapse, while all our coal gas shipped to the very same countries who are giving us loans to close our power, stations, while they use our coal to generate electricity for themselves. I wish to state it clear, as I did in the past, that my later refusal to appear before the Zondo Commission was not about avoiding having to account for things that happened during my presidency. It was a result of the clear bias against me by Zondo, as he seemed to have departed from being neutral on the matter. Zondo was himself continuously making statements that suggested that he had already concluded that I was guilty of everything that I had been accused of. In that climate, I still believe that I was right to have insisted that my evidence be heard by somebody who was neutral and had not found me guilty in advance. When I asked Chief Justice Zondo to recuse himself, he used his powers as a judge to be a judge and a witness in a matter affecting him. He made his own statement as evidence and then ruled that he was right and I was wrong. What an absurd judgment from a respected judge. In denying having had any past relationship with me, he interestingly did not state what he was recently stated, what he has recently stated in the interview with the JSC to become a Chief Justice. His statement at the Commission did not state that he would often hold private meetings, some of which would have been meetings requested by him. In his JSC interviews this year, Judge Zondo said that he would not remember the things we would discuss in those private meetings, and nobody asked him why. He didn't say, I had never had a relationship with him. He just couldn't remember what we discussed. Maybe he did not remember because some of those things are things that he chooses to forget and does not want to be reminded about what we actually spoke about. Perhaps it becomes difficult once you reach the highest judicial office in the land. It becomes difficult to remember meetings, perhaps selectively. One of the reasons why my sentence was 1 year, 3 months, was because I dared to challenge our judges. I've said it in the past, and I will say it again now. If we do not stand up and hold members of the judiciary accountable, we will be creating a judicial dictatorship in this country. And you must bear in mind, I was a freedom fighter. I fought against a very strong, oppressive government. And I will continue to do so. People speak about against people who raise criticism against some judges as if the judiciary is a superior arm of the state. The three arms of the state are equal, and perhaps this is starting to escape the minds of some of us or some judges. some of our judges loathe being criticized. And I know that I have given many of them the opportunity to justify their judicial bias against me by expressing my views. I do believe that my views should be protected under Section 16 of the Constitution. Our judiciary must reflect on its role with regards to defending our democratic constitution. It must reflect on its true role in promoting the radical changes our constitution which is required to ensure the transition from the old oppressive order and establish a new socio-economic and political infrastructure consonant with our historic mission and goals of our movement. Our judiciary must reflect on its role in promoting the radical changes of our constitution, which is required to ensure the transition from the old to the new. We need to establish the kind of atmosphere in our country that indeed is aligned to what type of a country we are. After my evidence at the Zondo Commission, if he was acting without any agenda, he would have sought to establish at least two things. First, given that I had disclosed to him my knowledge and access to the two reports of foreign intelligence agencies on how a new political elite would control the future of South Africa and the direction of our constitutional development. He would have taken serious note of my presentation. This would have enabled him to realize, among other things, if his commission was indeed established to undermine the Constitution as I contended it was. This is a view I continue to hold. Indeed, this was a contribution I made at the Commission of Inquiry as I attended as an invited guest. The second issue, which I believed was easier for a judge at his level to verify, is the issue of the allegation that the Commission of Inquiry had been established unconstitutionally. Justice Zondo should know the constitutional requirements for the establishment of a commission of inquiry. This too was ignored, and I know now, and I now know how he ignored a serious charge to the unlawfulness of his appointment as the chair of the Constitution of Inquiry. A credible examination of the constitutionality of the Commission would have ended the grand political plot of those who invested everything in forcing its unlawful establishment so as to provide the opportunity to entrench the political influence of this special group of persons who would serve the interests of their colonial masters and mistresses. Justice Zondo, acting in accordance with his oath of office, would have refused to take part in a commission of inquiry established outside the requirements of the Constitution. He would have refused to chair a commission whose main goal was not truth-finding. For Zondo did not find the truth, but an act of destabilization in order to advance the political interests that would strangle the progressive and transformative goals of our Constitution. Rather than employ the clear law governing constitutions of inquiry, Chief Justice Zondo solely decided to subvert it by using or abusing the power of the Constitutional Court to have me convicted and sentenced to prison for 1 year, 3 months without trial. My crime was only alleged. My crime only was that it was my alleged refusal to cooperate with the Commission. But in truth, it was to sideline my participation by creating oppressive conditions for whatever my participation in the Constitution, in the Commission would bring. Justice Zondo created unlawful and oppressive conditions for my participation, which included presentation in the Commission to let him, to tell him that he was presiding over an unlawful established Constitution of Inquiry. Its purpose, I knew, was to undermine our Constitution and hijack our institutions to serve the greedy local and global interests in our country. For an example, the terms of reference of the Commission of Inquiry were changed. Altered and narrowed down to focus on the targeted individuals they wanted obliterated and victimized. It's all out there for everyone to see. What is corrupt within the ANC are some individuals or individual members who are in the main from the top structures of our movement. It is absolutely important to always make this distinction. There is no ordinary member of the ANC who has been accused of any wrongdoing. On the contrary, some of those who have been accused and charged, killed other comrades, and those who use money in exchange for positions are found in the main at the leadership level. We cannot, therefore, blame the ANC for all the alleged corruption in the ANC. These selfish people are no longer shy to defy the Constitution and erode the potency of any institutions with the mandate to hold them to account. I want and will continue to do so that these infiltrators and fake revolutionaries would be rewarded for committing clear crimes and exonerated by an unrelenting wave of media propaganda for sabotaging the historic mission of our organization. We are witnesses of this today. We have seen the 30 pieces of silver with our own eyes. My medical situation remains a concern to me and requires constant monitoring. I have, however, resolved that I will live the remaining years of my life confidently and courageously. Courageously. Our country is not completely free, and we are not full into the false belief that our Constitution is stronger in the hands of the agents of global commercial interests. They will render the Constitution a piece of meaningless paper if we let them. There is no known don't worry. There is no known precedence of the apartheid courts having endorsed the illegal establishment of a commission of inquiry. But in this democracy, we have allowed the erosion of our hard-won gains. So we need to be ready to make the sacrifices necessary to ensure that we leave a legacy of a legal system that protects the progressive gains of our liberation. I wish to pay special tribute and gratitude to all South Africans who have shown me unwavering support and love, to my legal team for their tireless efforts, and medical teams of the very professional, selfless, and patriotic service to me. Thank you for what we have done. Today, they publicly detest any sign of improvement in my health, which was the very intention of my medical parole. They are obviously disappointed that my life was indeed saved. I'm resolute that we need to mobilize against the leaders who have sold our Constitution to their greedy friends. We need to ensure that we speak out when crimes are committed by the highest political authorities. It is interesting to observe the silence against the many allegations of criminality against the current president. All the so-called civil society organizations who parade as defenders of the rule of law are nowhere to be seen in demanding accountability from him. He has suspended the head of a Chapter 9 institution while she is investigating him, and there is total silence. Instead, the courts are defending the lack of accountability. There is complete silence by the media. About the Pala allegations. It's true. This was not the case when allegations were made about the security upgrades at my home in Nkandla. By the way, this is standard practice as prescribed. In other words, the fact that there were these upgrades is a standard practice as prescribed in the government handbook for all sitting and former presidents, that places where they stay will be taken care of by government. I often wonder what the situation would have been if I was the one accused of having millions of dollars hidden under my mattress. I wonder what would have happened if that was an allegation out of my Nkandla house. Let us not beat about the bush about the neglect of constitutional duty that comes with abusing the office of the president to conduct private business. I'm assuming that what President Ramaphosa has said about the many dollars under his bed or furniture is true, that he conducts private businesses while serving as president of our country. That on its own is unconstitutional, and those who applaud him for doing so commit the most disgusting transgression, not a transaction, transgression. I'm wrong. Conducted private business while holding the high office of president is nothing but corruption, which is inconsistent with the nature of that office and the Constitution itself. It is inconsistent with the oath of office taken by President and those who defend such deeds, both in the executive and the legislature, commit treason against our Constitution. Suffice it to say that your president has committed treason. But it's all silent, all keeping quiet. As somebody said, we have not. I should have heard it, by the way. No president should conduct private business while in office. It's not allowed. Our country's problems are too big for a president who is busy hustling on the side. To add insult to injury, the Western Cape High Court has found that the President went further and suspended the public protector for the sole purpose of covering up his pala corruption. Your president is corrupt, yet the busybodies and self-appointed anti-corruption crusaders and NGOs are dead silent. Finally, I wish once again to thank all those people who stuck their necks out in defense of democracy when the wolves were hovering around my body. Some compatriots were arrested outside the escort prison for giving me support. That includes the hundreds of South Africans who paid the supreme price in the process. The media has sought to drive a wedge between us by capitalizing on the fact that I did not refer to those who tragically lost their lives when I was briefly thanking those who have consistently supported me during my court appearances. We must not be fooled by such crocodile tears. The brutal truth is that they do not care about black lives. What kind of people are we who can lose almost 40 lives over one judicial mistake and continue with life as if nothing has happened? What have we become as a nation? Would the same silence be the case if only 44 non-black people had lost their lives in vain? It is most unfortunate that the media has sought to drive a wedge between us. Yes. I think I'm trying to emphasize. Yes. Indeed.
Put the stamp.
Yeah, put the stamp. Indeed. We must make up to the reality that black life is cheap in South Africa. My family and I pass our deepest condolences to those who lost their lives during that unnecessary and avoidable tragedy of that fatal day in July 2021. It should never have happened. It must never happen again. Violence and oppression only beget violent resistance, as history has taught us time and again. We need to collect the names of all those compatriots who lost their lives and properly commemorate their spirits. Please join me in that effort. I hope my foundation is listening to this. I've spoken about how the state power given to Justice Zondo to chair a commission of inquiry into allegations of corruption and fraudulent activities in state institutions was abused and turned into a tool to justify the intense political victimization and persecution of a group of people who served under my presidency. It is clear that Justice Zondo completely misunderstood the Constitution, the constitutional role of this commission of inquiry, which he transformed into an agency of dictatorship. Once again, once the dictatorship receives endorsement from the highest judicial officer, it is necessary for justice, it is necessary for the judges to stand firm and resist this trend. There should be a wholesale rejection of what Zondo stands for and represents in our Constitution. Our country cannot stand with dictatorship endorsed by the judicial system. Judges must guard against this trend of aligning their judicial power with what of political institutions, with that of political institutions. Judges must not endorse oppressive state tendencies under the guise of being players in the system of government and the regulation of government power. The pathetic Zondo Commission justified the correctness of my decision not to offer it my further participation with an alarming sense of false bravado. It behaved as though it is above the law and my constitutional rights are a hindrance to its political agenda. Of course, Justice Zondo should have refused himself, should have recused himself from sitting in my judgment, where he alone knows the nature of our past relationship, discussions, and dealings. In this regard, I take my part off to Justice Ekun. In this regard, I take my hat off to Justice Kuhn for knowing, for showing leadership, and integrity earlier this week. On his own accord, he realized that due to his past comments, which were favorable to Billy Downer, he cannot be the person to determine whether Downer should now even be playing any role in my criminal trial, while he is accused, number one, in the private prosecution for a serious offense. That step by Judge Kuhn shows that there is still hope for our judiciary. Justice Zondo should sit back and learn how a judge who has no agenda should conduct himself. With alarming zeal, the 2 billion rand commission's real political agenda was laid bare as it stripped itself of the fake attributes of fairness and impartiality that it had previously claimed to possess. It was clear that when Mr. Pretorius was reading out to the public my charge sheet, he was in fact dishonestly using the commission platform to cement further political antipathy towards me. The NPA of Mr. Nguka surrendered me to the court of public opinion, whose small section stands ready to embrace and reward him for his despicable conduct. History will absolve me, and no amount of political propaganda will stop the wheels of justice from turning towards the goals of a society in which all of us are protected by the law and the Constitution. I stand ready to lawfully engage in battle of the soul of our constitutional democracy against the Commission. They will not choose the platform for that battle, but everyone's of energy that I will possess will be dedicated towards ensuring that no South African ever becomes a victim of orchestrated victimization at the hands of some individuals within state institutions, parading as lawful purveyors of our constitutional goals. At this point, we stand at a crossroads between salvation and oblivion. The direction we take must not be the hands of greedy and bloody, thirsty enemies of our freedom. We need to guard against those who seek to sell our sovereignty and independence to foreign interests. We need to guard against those who are collapsing every state enterprises with the aim of selling it to foreign interests. We must guard against those who have failed to build any infrastructure for our people but have only been concerned with plunging the country into further debt by taking sovereign loans with expensive interest imposed to us as a country. We must guard against those who will wear the colors of the ANC to fool our people into voting for them while they stand to advance the agendas of other forces. We must guard against those who seek to divide us by sponsoring factionalisms in the ANC that is intended to permanently fracture the ANC. The choices we as citizens make in the next 2 years will determine our destiny. In tackling that task, we need to spare no effort in building the unity of the oppressed, poor, black masses, especially Africans. As we do all these important things, as mentioned above, we have a responsibility to unite all our people, both black and white South Africans. This responsibility is ultimately our final goal to make South Africa a real, united rainbow nation. Let me take my last few minutes to thank my legal team. Let me take this time to thank my legal team once again, under the leadership of Bofu, SC, sitting next to me here, and Masuku, SC, and the entire legal team. They are doing a wonderful job to help correct some wrong things that our country seems to be doing. Let me thank my foundation as well for the good work they continue to do. And I would also like to thank the media for being with us today, and thank you all for your attention in our country. I speak like this because I've gone through, in the last short period, very difficult time. And I thought it was important for me to speak after a long time and say things that many of you are afraid to say. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now we're going to open the session for questions. And I'm going to just ask that your professional composure that we have here, please maintain it so that we don't have interjections. That the incident that did happen was really uncalled for. Anyone is going to get my glasses. Whatever I want to say here. So please keep your composure. Ask your question. President Zuma is not going to run away. He's not going to say, I'm only asking questions, I'm running away. No, he's going to answer as many questions as you have. All right, he's going to start firing away. Any questions? On what has been presented, I know that you have a lot on your plate. Can you keep that for now? Can you for now deal with what has been presented? Going once?
I'll take one.
Sure. If you can just do the usual. I know you, but for the benefit of everyone.
No,
introduce yourself in the media house.
I'm happy to do that. Good afternoon, former President. My name is Lukhandi Saladasa. I am politics editor from Newsroom Africa. There's a lot that you said, but I mean, I'm going to try and just condense my question. The first one of those, I mean, obviously you've made some serious allegations against Chief Justice Judge Zondo. You also said outrightly that the current President of the Republic, President Ramaphosa, is corrupt. I just want to know, firstly, do you have any evidence that you can present to us about some of these allegations that you've made against Justice Zondo and, of course, the President? And then the more important question, sir, that I want to ask is, why do you think it's proper for the former President of a country to use a platform such as this to denigrate and to publicly, make the statements that you make against the head of an arm of government, as well as the head of the executive? I mean, I think as former president, you would have the opportunity to address these matters privately with Justice Zondo and current president. Why do you think that you're providing leadership to the country as a whole by doing what you are doing here today? Thank you, former president.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, my brother, whether you live in this country.
I do, sir.
Thank you very much. Justice Zondo did these things I've talked about in public, in court. As a journalist, you should have noted them. All of them, including my going to prison. I did not have time to sit in any place like a court to deal with these matters. But you were there. Why do you ask? Why would Zondo say that to the former president? If that is the case, if you have a way of making stages who must say what to who, why would Zondo have done so? What I've said here, Zondo has done. So why do you ask the question? Because I have addressed Zondo on through my lawyers and every other thing. There's nothing I'm saying here which is a secret. Zondo did that in public in South Africa to what you could call a former president. Is there a recognition how you deal with this one and that one? I don't know. But I'm saying we are asking questions on matters you know. Equally, the fact that President Emani was found in his home, it's not coming from me. He has done a lot of things, including to the ANC. And when that happened, by the way, I was a prisoner. Maybe I would have commented immediately. At one point when he said the ANC was #1 corrupt organization in this country, I wrote a letter, public letter to him. It's not no crime I've committed here. I'm stating where the country is, what the president is doing. Anyone above the amount of dollars in your house, you are found, you are arrested. When president dismisses the public protector, you know it. It's not, I'm not manifesting anything. All I'm saying is not going very well. He did that in public, and I'm saying what I'm saying about him in public. What's the problem?
Okay. Internalize that. We'll come back to you.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Molo Kumloki from ENCA, Mr. Zuma. I have just a few questions for you. I'll be very short. When you talk of...
Sorry. Just, I'll give you time to ask all three. Just do one at a time so that we don't obfuscate.
Okay. The meetings, private meetings that you say you have had with Chief Justice, and some of them were actually at his request. Can you elaborate on some of the discussions that you have had with him that he did not he said he forgot about when he was being interviewed? What specifically was at the center of your discussions?
No. These were private discussions. He hasn't said anything about it. I'm not saying anything about it. All I'm saying, he had denied that we had a relationship. Later, he agreed, yes, we had a lot of meetings. That's what I'm repeating, what he said. I can't tell you what we're discussing. Those were matters between me and him.
Why can't you tell what are you arguing?
Because they were private. For me and him, not you.
Are you covered?
Absolutely.
I'm not. I still have
No,
two
carry on.
questions.
Carry on.
Okay, right.
I just want you to do one question at a time.
Oh, sure. Second question, former President. When you talk of this intelligence that involves certain people who possibly are now in government serving the commercial interests of their masters and mistresses, as you alluded, are some of these people, did you work with them before? Did you perhaps appoint them in your cabinet, either as deputy president, as ministers? And were you not aware of their intentions at the time when you possibly worked with them?
My brother, I'm talking about what I said to Zondo in the commission. He was sitting there. I was telling him where these movements that are being done now come from. It was meant for him. And I made the point that if he would have followed those kind of things, he did not. It's not matters. Bear in mind, I say I was giving things which are intelligence. I'm sure if at all Zondo had asked more, I would have given him. Not you, my brother. It was meant for the commission.
Okay, final question.
Final question, Mr. Former President. When you said you had actually ended load shedding, somebody would say, anyway, you were ESCOM was burning diesel anyway at the time. And
I was?
When you said at some point during your presidency ended load shedding, we know at the time ESCOM was burning diesel. But I want, because we had two power stations, Medupi and Kusini, and their initial budgets were 79 billion rand and 81 billion rand respectively. This construction started, I think, 2007. You became president in 2009. They were meant to be completed in 2014. We know now, as the ESCOM appeared before Parliament Standing Committee on Public Accounts, that the cost ballooned, and large part of that happened under your tenure as President of the Republic. And these two power stations were meant to make sure that we had secure electricity. The fact that they have not been completed and they've had cost overruns under your watch, do you take responsibility for that?
No, I don't know what are you aiming at? You are saying yourself, when I came in, they were already on. Should I take the responsibility before I came in, that they were there already or whatever? I am not an engineer. Government takes a decision and it gives to people who must do the things. I went to those, both of them, to look at them at the time. And indeed, that was what was said. And we are talking about selling, burning diesel. Well, that's what caused the load shedding. Because some people working there did their thing in their own way, which then made those institutions not to perform as they were supposed to perform. I did not know then. I know now that I went there to take an inspection when some of the things were not done. And the people who were working there pretended everything was done. I cannot discuss those details because I'm not an engineer. If it was under my term, certainly the government at that time must be blamed, and I can't be excused. The fact that I was not the one who was doing it, it's neither here or there. If government fails, then the government is failed.
Okay. Maybe just to conclude on that question, and my brothers will know that if you're to compare the diesel that was burnt at that time versus what is burnt today, it's unbelievable. The diesel that was burnt at that time in the whole year is, in a whole year that was burnt that time, in a whole year, is being burnt now 10 times in a month's period. We're actually living on diesel now. And then lastly, as you know that President Zuma, during that same period you're talking about, he had decided that all the state-owned enterprises who are going to be looked after by Mr. Ramaphosa. He was chairing the war room at ESCOM. So some of those questions, next time when you get an opportunity with him, you must direct them to him. But that's not what we're here for. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm with SABC. Some of my questions were covered by my colleague here. Former President, in less than 50 days, the ANC is going to this conference.
So just raise your voice a little bit.
In less than 50 days, the ANC is going to its conference. If my memory serves me well, you have served in almost 5 top positions within the ANC.
My brother, just a second. We'll get to that. I just want us to focus for now on the presentation. What you're saying now was not covered in today's address. We'll deal with that when some of the issues that we dealt with were presented today have been dealt with, if you don't mind. Thank you. Any questions related to the presentation of today? Yes, ma'am.
President, Amanda Koza from the Sunday Times. You've been very critical about the status quo right now of how our government is, or where our government is at. Do you, as a former president, take any responsibility for the time when you were the president for how we ended up here as a country?
I don't know whether I hear you very well. You want me to take the responsibility with what government is doing now?
No, I'm asking you if you take any responsibility for the things that happened while you
I have always taken that responsibility. During my time, I was responsible. I take the responsibility. She is covered. She is covered. She is.
He doesn't take responsibility now.
Okay.
It's easy
Maybe
to
I'll
point
explain
to.
the question properly. What is not going to happen, what President Zuma is saying, is that what is not going to happen is that the current load shedding that we have today, he's not going to take responsibility for that because during his time, he had ended it. So the fact that we've got load shedding here today is not his problem. That's what he's saying. But during his tenure, he's had these kinds of briefings and he took responsibility at the time.
No.
So, and all of that. So the current president now must take responsibility for the unemployment, must take responsibility for the load shedding, must take responsibility for all the mess that is happening. This is what he's saying. So you seem to be saying President Zuma must continue to take responsibility.
I'm asking if he's willing to take
He
next
has.
step.
But he answered that question.
Okay. Let's think about it.
Maybe he wants to be answered again. Maybe she wants to answer.
And the prices have more than doubled. That is the responsibility. As president at the time, his government
Which
had
question is
to
it now?
What question are we answering now? Are you answering?
No, I'm saying the responsibility when
You know what she was saying.
No, but I answered him. I took the responsibility.
Yeah. And
I said so.
And her.
We can't take it now.
I did it with her as well during my period.
Yes.
I have.
to say you're taking responsibility now.
Sorry?
Why did you fail to complete this? Why did you fail to complete the construction of these two power stations? I mean, to say I'm taking responsibility is an easy way out, Mr. President.
No, it's not a way out. She asked a question. Do I am taking responsibility? I've answered her. Why do you say I'm dodging? No, we are not right.
Okay.
Just Sala Baba. Phumula.
Think of this session as conversation with President Zuma. So we'll have the conversation. Don't feel pressed. It's not like the other press conferences where you get rushed. I'm not going to rush you, so take it easy. It's not like when you get a chance, you must bullet everything. You get your time. Sir.
Okay. Mr. Zuma, I'm Oscar Duma from Eyewitness News. The first question that I have is, why do you think the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo chooses to conveniently forget the discussions that you have had with him? And why should the public believe that the fact that you and him had private discussions should have been ground enough for him not to assent to the position, yet you are not willing to divulge information as to why that should be the basis of why he should not be Chief Justice?
No, my brother. Chief Justice is my friend and relative.
But he said it's not your friend.
No, please, don't answer me when I'm answering you. Oh, kadubizela mfana kithi. Angidufuna ukwazi. I'm saying Chief Justice is my friend, is my relative, is my comrade. When I was the chair of the province, he was the chair of the ANC region, if not a branch. He's the man I know. I'm saying to him at court, at the commission, I would want him to recuse himself so that I can talk to somebody. Not him, because he is going to be tainted in one form or the other, because he's my friend. All I was saying is that legally, he's not supposed to say, no, I'm not doing it. I'm saying continue. And if I don't want to continue with him, he takes me to the what you call a constitutional court. That tells you that our relationship, this is what I was avoiding, my brother. I was helping him. Don't you realize?
But he has publicly said he's not your friend.
No, that is not true. Don't worry about it. I was talking about the fact that what has happened thereafter. He is my friend. He is my friend. And he is, in my wedding, he talked. He was given a chance to speak at Nkandla. I was with him because his sibari was getting married to me. Ufuna ngikaze konke lokho. My babu.
Can I follow up on the presentation? So, Mr. President, you have been very, very vocal with your criticism on judges. I mean, Mr. Zondo is one person who you've been strongly speaking out against, but I believe that you have also not taken kindly to the decision of the Constitutional Court to send you to jail because linked to the commission matter. Judge Sisika Bebe, when she delivered the judgment, she said, never before has the judicial process been so threatened. The justices of the Constitutional Court that ruled against you saw you as threatening the constitutionality or the constitutional function of our country, and you have continued speaking out against them. They say that is threatening to the Constitution. So what is your response to judges who see you as strengthening?
Tell me, is that what law did they use to, if such a person does that kind of thing, if I'm saying my views, is there a law that adds that the Constitution must be now put aside? They were using a law that is above the Constitution. Is there a law of that nature?
Sorry, I think Mr. Mbofu maybe could help me.
No,
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer.
Senior counsel.
I'm a senior counsel. Okay, Baba.
Remember that he's also a private prosecutor, so he speaks.
Absolutely, be careful.
I recovered. I mean, I think it's important that we use the information also that is generally available in public. The first issue, for instance, that we're dealing with about the knowledge of each other, of President Zuma and Judge Zondo. Did you watch the interviews of the Chief Justice interviews? Did you watch them, yes or no? Yes, I did. If you watched them, you would have seen that Chief Justice Zondo, when he was asked by Honorable Malema in there as to what were these discussions all about, I mean, what occasions the Chief Justice, the whole Chief Justice, to go and say politicians. He said, no, Zuma and I, we go back 20 years. You know? The thing that President Zuma is saying today, Chief Justice Zondo himself confirmed it. In fact, if truth be told, even issues of pleasure should be investigated in terms of how Chief Justice Zondo responded in the commission versus in the JSC, because there's no truth in the two, based on what he has said, not us putting words in his mouth. So there are those kinds of things. And the last point is you've heard Baba say that Justice Campbell said that this thing of appeals processes is going to take too long. This case, we're going to, the normal rules are not going to apply. Now, President Zuma is saying, what rule then did apply here? Now that you are so serious about being lawful, what rule did apply when the whole court is going to say normal rules are not going to apply, we're going to deal with you? So that's what he's talking about. When he says justice was not served for him, when he says he was not given a trial, those are the real things that he's talking about. There's a question. I'm trying to get a fresh hand from somewhere that has spoken. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Let me take a golden leaf out of these discussions. Politics. I'm an independent political analyst. And let me move away from politics and focus on something very important that the President had said earlier regarding the unfortunate situation that happened in July last year. I must say, I'm very humbled, Mr. President. It is rare. It actually never happened in this country that the head of state takes responsibility and give marching orders to the foundation to say what has happened last year in July under the disguise of the and you were not even there, I will take the responsibility and give my foundation matching orders that something must be done with it. We are still reeling the pains of Maritana, and many are massacres that happened in this country post 1994, and that must be commendable. Now, while we are on that stage, I wish to ask the President what you have in mind for the foundation to do for those victims, those black victims, I must be very specific, those black victims of what transpired last year in July, which was beyond your control, beyond the foundation control, and that must be commendable. And I think the sooner that be done, the better of us sitting here and still crying over Marikana and what happened in other parts of the country under the name of the political activities, I think.
Okay, that was a comment. I was going to think about.
That was a comment.
Yes, sir.
Claire Bargeles for Radio France International. So you ended your address by saying the choice we make in the next 2 years will determine our destiny. I was wondering if you consider yourself as a possible choice for the next 2 years for South Africans.
I wonder whether I heard you very well.
You didn't hear me.
Yeah.
You ended your address saying that the choice we will make in the next 2 years will determine our destiny. I was wondering if yourself you consider yourself as a possible choice for the next 2 years for South Africans.
No, that depends on the people of South Africa. Doesn't depend on me. If it was depending on me, I would have stayed in president forever. It doesn't go that way. It doesn't move that way. There are people, the people will decide. That one will be decided by the people. I'm saying here to the people who either within parties who elect their leaderships and the general public that elects generally, they must do that knowing that we've got to get out of the troubles where we are. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, we've covered. Any other questions from you? Okay. So, Madam, sorry. I know to check.
Just to add to what Claire said, I'm Zama Lutuli from Agence France Presse. So regarding everything that you stated today with the current president being corrupt, what do you think the chances of him retaining presidency are in December?
What are the chances of?
Of him retaining his presidency.
Well, I can't guess. I can't guess. It all depends how the ANC views him. And that they will take their decision. I can't tell them what to do. If I'm in the ANC meeting, I'm sure I will have a lot to say to them what I think they must do. But here I'm just addressing you guys.
The billions are going to take care.
Okay, I know the hands. I just want to give opportunity to the fresh hands. If there are no fresh hands, then we have to recycle the old hands. Okay, no fresh hands.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mann. Just on the question that my colleague here is asking about the current president.
Have you taken him out?
You said in your presentation, former president, I seem to get the sense that you say that the current president is not pursuing, he's in office, but he's not pursuing ANC policies and agendas, but he and his friends around him are instead enriching themselves at the people's expense. Am I understanding you right?
No. You see, I am talking about what the president has done, which is known by everybody. I'm not talking about something that is not known. People generally that I meet, they say things have gone bad in this country. And people say there is no money. People are saying, even the jobs that were there's a problem in the country. I can't be an author of that. This is what is being said. You know it as well. We are just asking me because you want me to answer, to say something. Not at all. This is being said by many people, that this president has failed. It's not me, and I was only talking about specific things that he has done, that to me are not presidential. They are not allowed by the law, by the constitution. Those are the issues I was dealing with. It is the ANC conference that is going to deal with him, whether they want him or not. It's not my problem. But if I'm there as a delegate, it will be my problem, of course. I will have my views.
I hear you, but what I think, former President, maybe I'm not articulating my question.
Yeah.
Ngokubona kwakho uRamaphosa njengese office ngokubawo wenza le nto ayithunyiweyo na yi-ANC.
No. Lalela baba. Let us just take one issue. Here is a scandal found in his home. There is money, dollars. He accepts this is his money. It's never done. It's a wrong thing. He's doing as a president of the ANC. You can start from Madiba. Nobody kept billions of money, or millions, not billions, millions of money. This is a wrong thing. He says one time where I say I wrote a letter to respond to him, ANC's #1 corrupt organization, wrong. I said so. I responded to him. Even if people say there is corruption in the ANC, it's not everybody in the ANC. They are very poor and honest Christians, whatever, who have stolen not even a stick of matches. Now, if you just put everything, it's wrong. I've said so. These are the things I've said. And you must be satisfied that I said them. And I said them because they were happening.
And as your successor, are you happy with what you gave him first, the country that he took over from you, and the direction where he's taken it? Are you happy with what has happened since you left?
No. What I'm saying, that people are saying things are bad, is true. And I'm not happy about it. Why should I be happy when even everybody is not happy? Me is particular because he was my deputy. No.
Where do you think he's messed up the most?
No. We are now doing something wrong.
Okay, sorry.
You are actually doing something wrong. I've answered your questions.
Okay, all right. Okay.
You are so personal now. Why are you? You are.
Okay, let's just give others a chance. I think we've given you enough time.
Yes, someone
let's
hasn't
give others
spoken.
a chance.
There's a new hand.
Anybody at the back? Yeah, fresh hand.
Mr. President, I'm Christian from the Barek Media. What is your relationship with Louis Liebenberg to support the court?
What is the question?
Relationship with Louis Liebenberg.
What's your relationship with Liebenberg?
How? Are you going to ask me about every friend of mine? I mean, I've got friends. Why are you picking on this one? And I've got friends, and I've got big friends who are white. Absolutely. So that's a freedom of choice. I want to be the president. If the president was my president, what's the problem? Friends. I've got many friends, you know. Among here, many. Yes. Why don't you ask?
Okay. This is the conversation with President Zuma. So when a matter is being addressed, please don't harass with the hands. Just do this to me, I will see that you want to speak. Once you do this, once the discussion is going on, it just disrupts the things because you are saying to other people, what you have to say is more important than what is being said. So just indicate, I'll get to you. All right? Let's start with you, my brother, with the spectacles. Yes.
Thank you again. I would just say something. Former President Jacob Zuma, how's your relationship with the current president, if there's any? Have you guys spoken? And when was the last time you probably had a conversation with him?
Cyril Ramaphosa is my comrade. I talk to all comrades. And I've been with him in the leadership. We talk. I haven't talked to him in the past because he's very busy as the president. I'm staying at Nkandla. I can't disturb him when he's doing his job. So I'm staying at Nkandla there. But if we meet, we talk. If we have not met and we haven't talked, it's not a crime, Baba.
Do you want to go back to your other question I stopped you from?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again. Former President, like I said earlier, you held 5 positions in office of the ANC since 1991 and 2017.
Just raise your voice a little
Oh,
bit.
sorry. You've held 5 positions in the ANC top 6 from 1991 to 2017. There are talks that your hand is up for the next chair in the coming 50-50 elected conference. What's the motivation behind? Does ANC lack, leadership in terms of the generation after you? And are you happy with the status of the ANC? Are you so unhappy that you think you can bring change looking at the last five years? And also just touch on the step aside rule. What's your view with regards to the step aside rule? Step aside resolution. And the last one, I would love to.
Okay, I'll give you a chance.
Because there are one, so you can respond.
Okay.
Yeah, you can respond. Have you ever spoken to any contenders? I mean, about 15, if I'm not lying, are eyeing for 2 top positions in the ANC. Have you ever spoken to any contenders in a couple of months?
My brother, in the ANC, the membership of the ANC takes a view about individuals and decide to nominate them. Nobody is debarred from that. Everybody can be nominated. I hear that I'm being nominated by the branches. And we have not sat in a meeting where I've got to say I'm standing or not standing. I'm told I'm being nominated as a president, as a deputy. These are comrades. They must be having very good reasons why they are doing so. I've not said yes or no, because they are doing their job. And they have a right to take a decision about me. I handed over myself in the ANC when I was a young man. Once the ANC takes a decision about me, who am I to defy it if the ANC takes a decision? So I can't answer you to say what I'm saying about it. I hear it says something. I must be saying, Maybe if I is sitting next to me as a comrade, why do you say this? Become okay. And I keep quiet. Because there will be a conference that will decide the leadership. If ANC members said, we want you, Jacob Zuma, to come in and do this, who am I to say, sorry, I don't want? I surrendered myself to the ANC that I will take instructions from the ANC. I will never say to the ANC, I want to be this. I said so when I was a young man, I say so today. It all depends in the hands of the ANC, my brother. You want to answer? You want me to answer the question I've answered already? I go now. It's not a question of personally.
Okay. Let's go on. I'll come back to you. Listen.
So it's clear, you admit that there are branches that have nominated you. If I read a quote from a letter you sent while also reiterating your support for Minister Ramaphosa to the position of ANC president, you say, I indicated that I will be guided by the branches of the ANC and that I will not refuse such a call should they deem it necessary for me to serve the organization again at that level or any other.
This is what I've just said.
Yeah. Yes.
This is exactly what I've just said to the friend there.
So my question is, branches have nominated you. You are saying you're available to serve if branches have nominated you. The question I have is, given your advanced age and your health matter...
ANC has no age, my brother. Don't even ask it. There's no age.
So
if you're an ANC cadre, and the members say perform. There is no age.
What about your health?
How? Where babu? Nangu muntu bo. Nangu muntu se utokotela. Waba utokotela ke manje baba. What's wrong with the health?
Yes.
What's wrong with the health? Just tell me what's wrong with the health. Looking at me, am I in the bed lying? It's a hospital. No, I'm just checking. Because we're asking a very funny question. Why about my health? It's a very unusual question, Baba.
He was a lawyer, now he's a doctor.
Mr. Man, you had said that this press briefing was for the media. We are getting disturbed by guests.
It's a conversation with President Zuma. Baba, there was one question that's outstanding from the previous person about step aside. I don't know if Baba wants to talk to it. What is it all about and
what is this
making sense?
No. No, Baba. This matter has been public. There are people who have gone to court. He's a journalist. He should know better. Absolutely. What has been discussed in the ANC about that one? Huh?
What's your question exactly?
This question is, what am I saying about it?
Former President Jacob Zuma, like I said, there are 5 positions, top serious positions in the ANC. They step aside who a lot of people have criticized. I just want to get your view with regards to the former organization.
Now, if you take the if you take the manner in which we have operated in the ANC, we have not gone as far as the level where if a person has either charged or whatever, must then move aside. I don't think it's fair. I think the ANC must respect the constitution of the country, as everybody does. You are innocent until proven guilty. For the ANC to have that kind of rule, it means you are saying you're defying the constitution of the country in reality. You are. Is that acceptable? I don't think so. Because the constitution is the law of all laws. Now, why do you do so? There must be some motives that one does not know. As you say, when I was part of all those positions, we couldn't make that kind of a decision. It's not right. It is undermining the right of people to participate in the ANC, in reality. It is also against the constitution of the country. This country protects everybody, including members of the ANC. Why, in this case, the members of the ANC should be victims of what the rule or whatever in the ANC. I mean, those are my views. Okay. And I'm sure we are going to the conference to discuss it, my brother. Yes, maybe you'll be sitting up there.
Let's go round up. Yes, sir. All right.
Mr. President, I think I was in Mangaung when you were re-elected. So this issue of people having to step aside, it actually started there when, if memory serves me well, and I think the first person to step aside, although maybe it was not formalized, was the former MEC of Health in Limpopo, who was an NEC member, Miriam Sahab. So it actually started when you were re-elected as president.
No. We had no decision to do so. I'm sure the ANC must have been using its own and also depending as to what had happened. There was no.
Who applauded the president when he said he's a businessman while he's in office, and I think it was during the Provincial Congress in Limpopo when he first made that statement. The question is, and those people were delegates coming from branches at a Provincial Congress. What is it saying about the quality of the ANC leaders? Because those are leaders of branches. But second question relating to that is, you, when you were president, in fact, even when you were going where the Constitutional Court, I think in 2016, said you violated the Constitution and you couldn't defend it, relating to the course in Ghana.
That's not business.
And I'm not, my question therefore is, in hindsight, moving away from the security issues, I don't think there's anyone who will disagree that as head of state you deserve security around you. But the cost, 245 million rand, Mr. President, spent on you, in hindsight, do you still believe that that money, that amount was justifiable, considering the fact that Parliament, even some of your ministers, even termed swimming pools, calling them fire pools? The money, the amount around that, was it justifiable?
Now, I think now we are just getting into a wrong path. Why should I have anything to do with things that government do for presidents and other people? I never ask anyone to come to Nkandla and do anything. I never. Whatever was done there, I don't know who did it and why. All I know, as a president, there are specific things in the handbook that gives presidents the right to have X, Y, Z. And why should I then answer that if the money was used in that kind of direction? There are presidents before me who had houses built, and I don't even know how they were. And nobody's ever asked them a question. Firstly, I was told that I've eaten money in Ghana, and part of the propaganda out there that is the most corrupt man. There was even figures of the monies I've taken. It was investigated. I never took even half a penny. But already I was told I'm a criminal, I'm everything. Now, why should I be answering those kind of questions, really? I've never wanted to deal with what is used for presidents or deputy presidents of ministers. It's not my business. It's done, not to me. It was done before me to Mandela, to Mbeki, to me, to be done to everybody else. It is in the law. So why should I be answering that question, really? It's just to extend the discussion about Zuma being corrupt, money in the banker. Somebody had said there was a money in the banker of what they call, what did they say? From Gaddafi is up there, but nobody's found it. But where there was no rumor, monies have been found. So should I be saying that?
I think because we're having a conversation, it also becomes important that matters of that are factual in nature, that we straighten them up here. So that you don't leave here having said what you've said and you run away with it unchallenged. Let's just set the record straight. Number one, the issue of you saying President Zuma violated the Constitution, let's just deal with that very briefly. This arises out of the public protector report that said he did not implement the recommendations. That's where this comes from. At the time, there was a legal uncertainty on the issue of whether the public protector recommendations are binding or not. You remember there were about 3 authorities that dealt with this matter. The first one was the Western Cape High Court, when they dealt with the SABC matter, and they said that the recommendations about training were not binding, so therefore the board of the SABC didn't have to deal with that. So President Zuma had that authority in hand at the time to say, okay, courts have decided these are not binding, number one. Number two, a constitutional court judge, Yakubu, is on the record saying that no, public protector is just an ombuds person, as it were. So as an ombudsman, they just make recommendations. They have got no executive authority, as it were. So that was the second thing. The third thing, around that time, there was a legal colloquium that was discussing this matter. And it came to pretty much the same conclusion. And these were our legal eagles that were dealing with this matter. And they, in their own colloquium, everybody, the least qualified at LLP, the least qualified, they said that they came to that. So at that time, there was legal uncertainty, and President Zuma actually was actually unfairly, if truth be told, let me finish, he was unfairly dealt with because the decision he took was not a wild decision. He was in good company of a good legal authority. And it turned out is wrong, and now that is wrong, it doesn't get the privilege that others get today. When the law is wrong or anything, you hear the court saying, we'll give you 2 years to fix and all of that, and you get away with it and all of that, fix the law and all of that, and people get away with it. But President Zuma was not given that, that issue. Lastly, on the issue of Ngandla, let's just be clear what are the facts. The facts are that President Zuma was, in the first instance, building his own house in Ngandla. He was building his own house with his own money in Ngandla. That's the first thing. And it was the minister that then decided that because it's a national key point, they want to do security upgrades. So a minister exercising his own executive authority decided that this is what must happen, and between the Minister of Police and Public Works, they did this thing. And then when the thing hit the rocks, then all of a sudden it's President Zuma again. And then lastly, the amount that was determined to be undue benefit was about 7 million. So this whole notion of 200 million spent is actually nonsensical because it's almost like they built their house from scratch, they bought their land, it's not. President Zuma was already living there, he already had fixed property. It was just the touch-ups that were being done. Yes, sir?
All right, I know that we're pressed for time. Former President, in your address, you said we stand at a crossroad between salvation and oblivion. The direction we take must not be that of bloodthirsty enemies of our freedom. Then you ended off by saying we must guard against those who will wear the colors of the ANC and fool our people into voting for them while they stand to advance the agendas of other forces. But is that not precisely what you did, former President, through your relationship, established relationship with the Gupta family? Whereas when you went into office and helped a particular family advance their business agenda and interests at the expense of the people, for instance, who have voted you and who have placed you in that position.
So just before President Zuma answers, just explain how he enabled them. Just give us some details.
I was going to answer that question. I was going to ask that question.
Okay.
What is it that I did for that family?
Right, so because of their proximity.
No. Don't talk about proximity. What did I do to that family?
Because of your friendship and your proximity and your closeness to that family.
Order. This is the journalist is doing his job.
Exactly, and also the other thing
now we're having a conversation.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So because of your proximity with the Gupta family, which is well established, which you have said yourself.
No. No, Baba. Don't just use big words, proximity. We have a proximity with many other people. All I'm asking, what did I do? There's no proximity that can make people rich. And they've got it to be accused that they made these people rich just because of the proximity.
I'm trying to understand, Bob. You asked me a question, I'm trying to answer.
But we are not answering the question.
But I am, sir, but you, with all due respect, Bob, you are my elder, but I would appreciate if you would allow me then to...
Okay, continue, Bob. Sengo Alawil as an elder.
Thank you. Because of your established friendship with them, the Guptas were able to advance their business interests using your name and using your relationship with them.
Where did they do that, Baba? Where do they do that?
Sir, those are matters that are currently being investigated by.
So why do you interfere with investigation that is ongoing?
No, we're not interfering.
No, because my brother.
Okay, we need to
wait a bit.
Allow the former president to respond because.
No, you are making a very
without anybody,
yeah.
So we can have this conversation.
Yeah.
Anytime now.
Lalela Baba, you are saying, you make a very serious allegation that I helped the Guptas to become big business. I'm asking, what? Just quote one business. I'm now making it simpler for you. Just one.
Okay. Well, firstly, I did not make an allegation. I asked a question. My question was based on a statement that you had made, where you said we must guard against those who will wear the colors of the ANC and fool our people into voting for them while they stand to advance the agendas of other forces.
Yes, I said so.
Yes, I know, sir. I wrote it down. My question to you then was, but is that not what you did?
No, no, but I did not do that. I didn't.
All right. No, I appreciate the response.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
When I come to Uganda,
Yokuhlabela igusha mfana.
All right. Okay. I think we need to wrap up.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a question I asked which he didn't respond to. The quality of the ANC cadres when they applaud the president when he says, "I'm in office, but I'm doing business on the side." Just his view there to say these delegates will clap hands for the president, who, according to him, is violating the constitution.
But just before Baba responds, just want to make sure if you heard the speech that he read, that the ANC is not corrupt, and even the general members are not corrupt. Corruption is at the leadership level. This is what he said in the written submission. That's what
the question is the delegates' failure to discern that this president is telling us this, yet the constitution is saying this, and they are clapping hands, because he was very emphatic condemning them, saying they have committed disgusting transgression for clapping, and the president who told them that he's doing business. I just want him to expand on what you think, Mr. President, of the quality of the cadre in the ANC.
We've got all qualities in the ANC, my brother. All qualities who respond in different ways. Problem. Is their right? No problem. All I'm saying, I'm raising the issues that are supposed to be raised. If other comrades did not raise them, I'm not putting them anywhere. I'm raising my issues, as I know the ANC and the policies of the ANC and the policies of the country and laws of the country. I'm working against that, not the people who were in the conference. I wouldn't say why they said so. They might have good reasons. I did not engage them.
Okay, but it's also not the delegates of the ANC that have got money under the mattress. So you are just unfairly painting them as if they have no discretion. You know, when they did nothing, there's one person that put money under the mattress. Any other question from anybody? You see, this is what happens in the President Zuma's presence. No rush. Everything gets dealt with, no questions. Everybody's got their fair chance. And then this is also to make up for this is also to make up for all the delays. So let's take this moment and thank you all. And really, once again, I apologize for all the delays. You've been a very good audience. We've had a nice engagement. Till we meet again. Thank you very much.
Well done.
Yes,
Okay, let's just allow the president to leave.